Hey, you guys, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, writer-musician Allie Goertz talks about the car accident that changed her life.
And so I'm to the side of the road in between the two cars. So I am facing the hood, and there's the car behind me that we hit. My memory is this really crazy smashing sound, but I don't feel anything and I don't see anything. I just hear this sound, and then I hear that gigantic man who had said nothing go, "Holy shit!" And so I look at him and I look at everyone, and everyone is staring at me and is shocked.
Today on the show, musician, comedian, and writer Allie Goertz talks about the car accident that changed her life. Stay close.
Hey, this is Allie Goertz, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a new listener, welcome to the show. I am super happy you guys are here today, and I hope you enjoyed the show last week with comedian Greg Proops. Allie, do you know Greg?
Oh my God, such a fan.
He is unbelievably bright.
He is.
His intelligence knows no bounds. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I've followed him for over 20 years, and I just got him on as a guest, so that was super fun. And Greg talks about traveling. He travels extensively, not just in the States, but he does a lot of touring in Europe and in Australia, and he's just working all the time.
Wasn't he in Star Wars?
He was. He was a voice in Star Wars.
It's amazing.
He was Bob the Builder.
What?
Oh my
God.
The entire run of the show on television, that was Greg Proops.
I had no idea, because I was very much a kid when that was on. I was a tiny bit too old for it, but I remember thinking what is this show? I can't believe that it was voiced by someone I deeply love.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's amazing. Anyway, you guys, go back, listen to Greg Proops, but not today, because today I'm here with writer, I'm going to say musician, I'm going to say comedian. Would you say comedian?
Yeah.
I say that too. Allie Goertz. And Allie brings forth the topic, the car accident that changed my life. And I like this topic, not that you were in a car accident, but
what are you trying to say?
I like a story title that is exactly what happened.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
There's no guesswork.
Good. Yeah, I know what's going to happen. Did you know that you've been on Storyworthy before, but you were always my youngest guest.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I think it's surpassed now. Now I've had on people younger than you, but when you were first on.
Oh.
And I think that was 7 years ago. Or 6 years ago. It was a while.
And it couldn't have happened without this car accident.
Really?
I'll get to it, but it really did change the course of my life.
That is super interesting. Oh, good. Mm-hmm. Well, I can't wait to hear it. I've been in about... Oh, shit, man. 8 car accidents?
Wow.
I mean, a good amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm old.
That's actually...
if you balance it out, that's only one every 3 years.
That's actually pretty great.
Exactly. And sometimes I think to myself, I can't believe there aren't more car accidents in general.
Oh, my God. We shouldn't be allowed to drive.
I know. It should only be ride share with people that are pilots, trained.
It should be much more difficult to get a license and then to keep one. I shouldn't be able to drive.
Well, luckily, at least here in Los Angeles, a lot of kids aren't getting their driver's license.
That's true.
First of all, they don't need it to be social, because they can be
Lyft
social.
over somewhere.
Yeah, or they can Lyft or Uber, but they can also just be social online.
Live online, never leave your room.
When I was a kid, we used to just drive to a parking lot and just sit in our cars.
Yeah.
Or, break out the the hard cider, you know what I mean? Some horrible Bartles and James thing.
Yes.
And that was how we socialized. But now kids can go to coffee shops.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious to see, and you have a daughter who's going to be in this world of not drinking as much. It seems like not having such an obsession with sex as other generations have, and just a lot more considerate, kind, good people. At least that's what I hope.
I honestly think so, because my daughter, she has so much more information than I did at her age.
It's a great point.
So she knows, she just seems to know the score. I seem when I was her age, I was much more immature. Mm. She Yeah, and also schools, they talk about everything. Like I got a note last week, this week in 7th grade, we're going to be going through sexual, education, sex ed. And they did it last year as well. But they say, these are the topics we'll be covering, just so you know. And so I say to myself, before I even read the topics, I'm like, okay, obviously I've talked to Alabama about sex before, and we've had the books and everything. But I'm just going to read through these, and I'm going to tell her first, before she goes to school, whatever I'm looking at. And some of the topics were sex trafficking. Like, it wasn't even like, it wasn't about like a penis goes in a vagina.
Right.
That wasn't what they're talking about. They're talking about, assault.
Good.
Good touching.
Like consent?
Yeah, consent. Exactly.
That's amazing. That's going to change the world.
Yeah, but and Alabama came home and I said, hey, Bammy, I'm going to tell you about some stuff that, is coming up in school. And of course, she rolls her eyes and she doesn't want me to talk. I said, too bad, we're going over it. Now, number 1, sex trafficking. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, listen, if you're in Istanbul, you just don't know who you're getting in the car with.
Right.
She's like, what are you talking about? I'm 13. Like, I won't even let her out of my sight for
Yeah.
That's the other thing. At least here in Los Angeles, you don't just set kids free.
No.
Like, you just don't say, okay, leave the house and come back in an hour or 2 hours.
Right. Yeah, latchkey kids. Because you could also do you could track their location on their phones
That's
as well.
So true.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's a great idea. And I'm going to get a chip implanted in her neck.
She'll love it.
Kidding. Yeah, right. So listen, when you were on the show last time, you talked about your 21st birthday.
I did.
So I just can't. I'm so excited, and I can't wait to hear the story. But before we do get, by the way, the accidents I've had, I caused a few, but by far I've been hit more than I've hit somebody else.
For sure.
Do you know what I mean? And my car has been totaled a couple of times, but when I say the car was totaled, it's like it wasn't worth anything anyway. So it's not hard to total a $3,000 car.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like if you knock the bumper off, it's like, we're done here.
It's done.
Yeah, get a new car. So anyway, but I've never been severely injured, and boy, oh boy, that must suck. I worry about that when I get in the car.
Oh, yeah.
I worry about it, all the time. You just never know what could happen, and it's like the last thing I want to happen today is end up in the hospital.
Oh, my God.
It's just the worst.
At least until we know who the next president is.
Yeah, exactly. Have you been watching the impeachment hearings, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
So have I.
Yeah.
I'm so addicted to the impeachment hearings. Yesterday, I went on stage. I do those slotted comedies during the day.
Oh, great.
Where you do, it's comedy on the hour,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
pay $5 to go up for 5 minutes. It's this whole thing. And anyway, so I go on stage yesterday, and I have my earbud in my ear, because I'm still listening to the impeachment hearings in one ear.
That's amazing.
So I'm doing stand-up, and I'm listening to the impeachment hearings, and then my earbud fell out, and the host called me on it, and he's like, did you have your earbud in that whole time? And I'm like, the impeachment hearings are on. I can't tear myself away.
That's great.
That being said, I'm not watching now, because I really don't care what the Republicans have to say, because they're just going to embarrass themselves and negate everything, and it makes me think I'm in a Twilight universe.
It does feel like that, but at least we have Adam Schiff saying some of the coolest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Isn't it amazing to
Yes.
hear people that are so qualified and so educated, and it's like I cling to that, like, exactly, I know.
Yes.
Like, it's so obvious.
Oh, yeah. I feel like if I were in his presence, I would do what the girl does in Indiana Jones with, the I love you on the eyelids. I just think if I looked at a picture of him, I wouldn't be like, oh, what a babe. But listening to him talk about what's right,
And he wears
it's amazing.
the nicest suits, man.
Yes.
His suits are really, they're just tailored so perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's giving a textbook version of how this should go, or you know what I mean? It's just a perfect presentation. But it is hard to think that he might very well get away with this. Trump might get away with it.
Yeah, it's scary times. But
it is scary times.
But we got to have hope. We got to go out there.
I know, but it's just like people live in Hong Kong that are just as, they're just as westernized as we are, as it were, and they live under this every day. And there's people in Russia that are, Moscow, that are totally hip and cool and educated, and they have to live with it.
Yeah.
So I'm just scared that now we're going to have to live with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's a question of how much do you let yourself think about kind of the the terrors of some of reality, and how much do you let yourself kind of live your life, and there needs to be a balance, especially when we can get involved. And like currently I'm working for a political campaign for this guy Bobby Bliatu, who's running against Devin Nunes, who's such a dirtbag. Devin Nunes is such
Ohio,
a weenie,
right?
too. It's actually in California. It is the Fresno, Central Valley area.
I don't think I knew that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so Devin Nunes, he's completely complicit. He's such a like a lapdog of Trump's, and he sucks so much. And basically, he's in a very he's in a district that's very affected by gerrymandering, and it's very difficult to ever get someone to leave based on that, because people hate him, but because of how the district is laid out, he's kind of safe.
Because they don't want women to vote. They don't want people of color to vote.
Yeah.
And so they gerrymander the lines of where people can vote. And therefore, the people that would not elect him, they don't get to. They just don't get to.
Yeah, but I think because of how crazy all this stuff has been with the Ukraine and everything that's going on with, the essential mob hit.
Yeah.
Like, there's actually a chance. So, in between projects, I figured, you know what, I'm going to go out and try and do some stuff. So, Bobby Bliatu.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Will you go up then, do you think, in like pamphlet and stuff?
I might, yeah. I might as well. Fresno's not too far, and they have very cheap parking tickets. I got a parking ticket there once, and I was pissed off because in LA they're $90.
$64.90. Yeah, right.
It's crazy. And now in Fresno, at least when I got one, it was $15. I'm just like, that's how much I charge to find a spot.
That's worth parking wherever the hell you want.
Yeah,
that is super funny.
Yeah.
Well, what scares me is that this is all going to be uncovered, and history is going to show these people on the wrong side. Mm-hmm. So it's just shocking that somebody doesn't want to be a fucking hero and say, I know what I'm looking at.
I know.
Why would I feel like it? Like, they always talk about those 4 senators who are sort of swing people, like Mitt Romney or Susan Collins. And I think, like, if I were Susan Collins and I were looking at these two sides of people, like, who are the cool people?
Exactly.
And who are the nerds, man? Like, do you want to be with all the celebrities and the singers and the famous people? Or do you want to be with this group of,
oh my God,
sycophants?
Squares.
Yeah, and they are. They're just like, it just seems so uneducated and so cult-like.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't understand why somebody wouldn't stand up and say, yeah, man, not only do I believe it, but I'm going to be a hero.
Yeah, I tweeted something similar saying, like, where are the 4 brave Republicans who are going to come forward and say that we need witnesses and documents? We're going to put your faces on T-shirts. We're going to celebrate you. You're going to get laid by liberals. Like,
your name will go down in history.
Yeah, not only do you get to be right, but like people are going to think you're really sexy and cool.
Yeah, I mean, and when the musical comes out, Trump, that Lin-Manuel Miranda writes in 10 years, then somebody will play you.
Exactly right.
God damn. All right, you guys, let's get to Allie's story. But before we do, I wanted to remind you to follow me on social media. You know this, at Storyworthy. Yes, of course. And then head over to StorySmashShow.com as well, because Story Smash is going super well. You've got to come down, Allie.
Absolutely.
To the Improv. It's been just a blast every month at the Hollywood Improv. The next show is February 29th, and that's a leap year. So there you go. We're playing on a leap year. Anyway, you guys, it's super fun. Would love to see you there. And then, of course... Oh, yeah. And then, of course, follow Story Smash on Instagram, because that's where I keep all the action. That's the photos of all the action at the show. Super fun. Nobody can take a camera into the Improv, but I get my camera into the Improv. And we got some great photos. So go over there, you guys. All right, you guys, she's here right now, as you've already heard her, Allie Goertz. She is a musician and a writer and the former editor for Mad Magazine. You were one of the editors. Yeah,
my title was editor, and I was the first female editor ever.
That's unbelievable.
Well, then I ruined it, but yeah.
Well, what were your duties?
So my duties were very similar to kind of, basically the editorial team kind of works as a unit, all doing similar types of things. So not too distinct from editor-in-chief and the senior editor and the associate editor. We're all kind of pulling our weight, like a writer's room. So basically, we worked with freelance artists and writers and would pull them in and kind of develop these stories and kind of come up with ways that, for example, I would hire a TV writer who had never written a comic before, and I would kind of help them figure out how do you translate something that works on screen into a non-moving piece of art.
Amazing.
And there would be a lot of punch-up and coming up with, kind of tweaks and different versions of jokes, and then also writing original material and coming up with new types of recurring pieces. But then there was also some projects that never got to see the light of day that is too bad, and maybe one day I'll just do it on my own. But we were in talks of doing a Mad Magazine podcast, which was going to be really fun.
Super fun.
We would have had Sergio Aragonés and Al Jaffe and different people who have been on the, team for, they are mad.
Sure.
And talk to different people that have really created that history. The former editors who are in New York and now retired. I think we would have done some of the stuff that's now happening on the National Lampoon podcast with kind of the sketch comedy and written.
Sure.
But, it unfortunately didn't play out that way. But
that can still happen.
I think it could still happen. You never know what's going to happen with Mad. Right now, they no longer are doing original content in the way that they were. There was a merger, essentially, that ended up making it so that things just were shuffled around so much because Mad Magazine is owned by DC, who's owned by Warner Brothers, and they're owned by AT&T.
It's like conglomerates.
And it's, as good of a job as everybody was doing, when you have a magazine whose motto is essentially, like, question everything, and, like, they want you to really judge, these big corporations, like, it just doesn't really work as well when it's being run by a big corporation, in my opinion.
No, I hear what you're saying. How do you think you ruined it? What did that mean?
Oh, just a joke. Just the fact that it's no longer in print. I actually quit before the layoffs happened, so I actually wasn't there at that time.
Did you see it coming?
I was worried that it might come because we had an editor-in-chief who ended up leaving, and they didn't replace him in a quick way. They ended up not replacing him. And I was kind of like, well, you need an editor-in-chief to run a magazine. So if they're not replacing him, that makes me think that maybe they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, I'm not sure.
That's a hint. Yeah.
I'm just not sure. But I left to write on an animated TV show. And it was a blast. But then that ended at the same time that the Mad thing ended. So I kind of was going to end up getting laid off either way if I had stayed or gone to this place. Mergers are crazy.
Yeah. It's such a typical story, out here.
Oh, like, everyone has it.
That every show ends.
Yeah.
Even Seinfeld ended.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? So it's just like there's always a matter of time. But it is... it's difficult nonetheless. Now, you do have that fabulous podcast around Springfield with Julia Prescott, where you interview the writers and the directors and showrunners and the voiceover actors from The Simpsons.
Yes.
And you just had on Yardley Smith.
So exciting.
Blew my mind.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you guys got her.
Thank you so much.
She's such a talent. I can't get over how educated her family is.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They're brilliant.
Yeah, it's like her mother went to wherever, and her father went to Harvard, and she's got all this education, and anyway, that was really cool. That was a great get.
Thank you. Yeah, I really recommend that podcast for Simpsons fans, of course, because you get to listen to people who've worked on The Simpsons, kind of talking about other aspects of their lives. But even if you don't like The Simpsons, I think it's a really fun look at people that are working today and are very successful.
Absolutely.
And when they failed and when they were coming up.
Exactly. And it makes them seem normal and tangible. So if you're sitting there in Pittsburgh and you're listening to this podcast and you want to be an animator on The Simpsons or something like that, that's what you aspire to.
Absolutely.
And what a great podcast to learn about who those people are, that everything's not perfect all the time.
Definitely not.
And it changes. And then you also had on Matt Selman.
Yes.
And he's a producer on The Simpsons.
Matt kind of even co-runs The Room with Al Jean at least some of the time. And,
wow.
He was a huge part of the Simpsons movie, and I think he also punched up or wrote Minions. He has all kinds of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, what a talent! And so you still watch the Simpsons, obviously, right?
I don't watch current Simpsons as much as one might think, knowing that I have a Simpsons podcast. I've always been really snobby about the golden age of the Simpsons.
Yeah. Season 4.
Seasons 4 through 8 are just so perfect.
Yeah,
but through my last podcast, Everything's Coming Up Simpsons, where we talk about each episode
One by one.
Yeah.
And this is the same podcast, but you guys have tweaked it.
Yeah,
so,
we've rebranded it.
Yeah, that makes sense as well to do that. But when you were doing the other one, it was more like taking each episode and dissecting it.
Yeah, so we'd ask each guest to come on, and sometimes they were Simpsons writers like Matt Selman. Other times there would be people who had their own projects, like Weird Al came on, and we had other people. And
that's so fun.
It's really fun, and we basically asked each person, what is your favorite episode of The Simpsons and why? And then the catch is just you can't pick an episode that's already been picked. So basically, we'd get to hear, and it shows a lot about each guest. We'd get to hear why they like this specific episode, and often it's really personal, and we got some really cool stories.
Absolutely, because they're probably using parts of their own life in the script.
Definitely.
As writers do. And that's great. That's such a more interesting way of interviewing on a podcast than like a regular long-form interview.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean? It just stays right in the wheelhouse of what you said you're going to talk about.
Totally.
Which would be that show or whatever.
Totally.
Then you also served as the social media producer for shows including At Midnight for Comedy Central. And you did that for a long time.
Yeah, I was working at Midnight from episode 1 to the final episode, which I think it got to 600 episodes.
Yeah, unbelievable. So great.
Thank you.
And were you the one who was picking the people who won the hashtag wars?
I was, there was a democracy involved of picking the hashtag war winners. If you're familiar with that special time in Twitter where At Midnight was kind of ruling the hours of like 8 to midnight, it was really a fun time because people either loved it or hated it because it really took over the entire feed. But
absolutely.
Basically, my job was to find the best answers and then kind of pitch them, and everyone would kind of decide after looking at my top 10 picks, like, okay, this is the winner today.
Yeah, and nobody ever won anything. It was just,
I think they just won getting to be mentioned on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the hashtag wars. I probably put in, I don't know, 400. I mean, a lot. Because you could not do it. Because it would be like, what would be an example?
It would be like...
name a band underwater.
Yeah, it'd be like cow bands, and then you'd pick a pun that works with a cow, or like you like old people music, and you'd do a joke about you know dentures.
Exactly. Yeah, that was very clever. It really was. Listen, you guys can find Allie over there on Twitter at Allie Goertz, and also at her website alliegoertz.com. All right, let's get to it. Wherever you are, put your hands together for Allie Goertz.
So this is the car accident that changed my life. And I really am not exaggerating. It really, I think I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't, who knows? So I was probably 19 or 20 years old. So this is quite a ways back for me. I am now 28. And I was in the car as a passenger with my boyfriend at the time, Josh. And Josh and I had just gone to Carl's Jr. and gotten like this new dipping sauce that they had. We were fast food junkies. We were broke. Like we both gained like 15 pounds. And we were very excited. Our outing of our date was that we're going to go get this new sauce that they have at Carl's Jr. And so this does not end up in the police report, but what happens is I was feeding Josh French fries from the passenger seat, probably distracting him a little bit because I'm dipping these French fries and feeding it into his face. And as this is happening, Josh stops the car suddenly and hits the car in front of us. And he says before it happens, "I'm about to hit this car." And it scares me because he's very calm about it and there's nothing you could do. It's just what's going to happen. I'm about to hit this car. And he's driving my car, mind you. And he's not insured in the policy. It's only for me. So I'm a little worried. But I could tell in the split second that I had to react, it's not going to kill me. It's going to be fine. And so we hit the car and it's really loud. And the hood of my car is crushed down to half size. You can't even see. Everyone's fine, but the sauce got all over the car, and it's the color red, so it looked like blood, and it was very frightening. But we get out of the car, and the people we hit, their car had the tiniest little scratch, whereas my car was completely totaled. And the people in the car, it was this really big guy who was quite silent. In fact, my memory is he didn't say a word. And then these two women, And the two women were really upset, and they were really coming down hard on us, even though they had this baby little scratch and my car would not operate. As we were dealing with that, I called my dad and I asked him, hey, I just got into this car accident. And he immediately asked me where I was, because he's just such a good guy. Yeah. And he asks if I'm okay. Where are you? I say where I am. And I say, hey, I'm so sorry. I know you don't have a lot of street parking, but is there any way that I could tow my car to your house? Because we have none. There's nowhere we could put this car. And he says, yeah, there's not much, but I'm going to stand outside and I'm going to wait and save this spot for you if I find one. He's such a good guy. And in the middle of that conversation, I am looking at the hood of my car, kind of explaining the damage. And so I'm to the side of the road in between the two cars. So I am facing the hood, and there's the car behind me that we hit. And while I'm on that phone call, a third car comes and rear ends my car, pushing the two cars that I'm stuck in between into my legs. And so basically, my memory is this really crazy smashing sound, but I don't feel anything and I don't see anything. I just hear this sound, and then I hear that gigantic man who had said nothing go, holy shit. And so I look at him and I look at everyone, and everyone is staring at me and is shocked. And I look down and the cars are touching. They are not, there's not a second or an inch of space. And I had just seen the movie Signs for the very first time that day. And if you have not seen Signs, I'm going to spoil it for you. There's a character who gets in a similar situation where she is stuck between two vehicles, and when one of the vehicles is removed, it cuts her in half. So I have it in my head that if one of these cars is backed up, I'm going to be cut from the legs down, which is maybe an exaggeration, but that is what I thought at the moment. So again, I feel nothing. But I start to scream, and I'm screaming, I won't do it at the full volume, but this is the type of screaming I was doing. Ah, 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 just repeated. I can't stop. It's very fast and frequent. And my dad was still on the phone with me. So imagine being my dad on that phone call. He tells me now, when he was on the phone, he was listening in and said, what is that annoying sound? And then his new girlfriend, who is now the mother of his daughter, said that she watched the color of his face instantly disappear, and he almost fainted. I don't know any of this at the time. All I know is that my glasses flew off my face, my phone is somewhere, there are these cars going, and I'm thinking, I guess this is how it happens. I mean, everybody has to lose their legs at some point. When you lose your legs, you lose them somehow, and this is what's happening. And I'm wearing black tights, I can't see anything. And Josh, he had been hit and he had fallen onto the ground, but he was mostly fine. He just was a little shocked. He was leaning on the car when this happened, and he fell to the ground. So he got up and he sees that the guy who hit me is still in his car. He has not gotten out to see what's happening, and he realizes he's starting to get out, and he yells at him get the fuck back in your car and reverse. And I say, please don't reverse. I'm going to get cut in half. And everyone's like, we got to just do this. And so the guy gets into his car. He backs up. I fall to the ground. And Josh, fortunately, strong enough guy that he was able to pick me up and take me to the bus stop. And I was, of course, afraid. I'd heard, you're not supposed to carry people in this situation. But because it was my back, we figured, okay, let's just risk it. And so we get over there. Someone's calling 911. My memory goes in and out of this because your body is really trying to not think of pain. I remember not feeling a single thing, and then suddenly all the pain at once. And I'm sitting on this bus stop, and kind of magically, this woman who wasn't there before has appeared, and she's giving me ice. She's feeding me ice and braiding my hair and speaking to me in Spanish, these, I assume, really nice affirmations. I don't know where she came from. I don't know what she was doing other than seeing she must have seen me get into the accident and was just trying to calm me down. And I remember feeling like, you're an angel. Like, I remember feeling like I'm being blessed by an angel right now. And keep in mind, I'm not a believer of anything like that. It just felt so lucky that this really kind woman was just taking care of me until the ambulance showed up. And so the ambulance arrives and they put me on a stretcher, and I am so afraid of needles that when they say, we're going to need to give you a shot, I say, like, can you please not? I'm just really afraid. And they're just like, you were just stuck between two cars. You don't think you could handle this? But they gave me the shot. I screamed. I was such a baby. And from that moment on, I became the very funniest person I've ever been in my life, because the way that I handle fear is through comedy. And so I wish I had been able to record this, because it would have been my Comedy Central half hour, because truly every single thing I said, and it was just the wittiest, smartest, fastest, Marx Brothers-esque, like bam, 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 every single thing. And basically I remember it being a truly delightful experience after that point, because I couldn't have it be anything else. Otherwise I would have been sobbing. But some funny elements that happened in the car. The first thing that happened is, after they gave me my shot, they said, we're going to have to cut these off. And I said, my legs? And they're just like, no, your tights. And I'm just like, say tights. Say tights next time. And they cut down my tights, and you could see that my legs were just, they weren't good, I'll say that. And so suddenly, I won't get too graphic, but it was very damaged, extremely black and blue and red, and it was really gnarly. And for the first time that day, in addition to watching Signs, I had been complimented on my outfit at college. So I had been kind of like, I've always been someone who likes to wear tights and kind of like, 90s Lisa Loeb type. Yeah. And finally, I feel like I really came into my style, and I got 3 compliments that day, and I'd never in my life been complimented by other women on my clothes, and I was so excited about it. And there was a point where, after they cut through my tights, they realized they had to cut through everything, and I was like, but this is my favorite outfit. You can't. But they did. And it really was almost as heartbreaking as the experience of getting crushed. It was truly crushing. And so basically, before they had to cut through all my clothes, they shut the door of the ambulance. But I saw my dad in the crowd, and suddenly, like this wave of peace kind of came over me. And he's like, "I'm going to meet you at the hospital." And he had my glasses, he had my phone, and I was so relieved. And then, as soon as I got in there, I was talking about, I wish I could tell you all the different jokes I made, but I know that I was being funny, because everyone was saying, like, everyone that works there was saying, like, you should be a comedian. This is so funny. You're being hysterical. Granted, they were probably being nice to me because I was in a lot of pain. But basically, they had to cut through the outfit. It was so embarrassing. I was saying, like, well, I've never been naked before in front of people that I'm not dating. This feels so strange. And they're just like, please, this is a doctor. We see bodies all the time. And I'm just like, but you've never seen my body. And they're just like, it's nothing I haven't seen before. And I'm just like, well, let's see. And I, very TMI, I apologize. But like, it was a very bad day for this to happen, because I was on my period, and like, I had like this makeshift little panty liner that I made out of toilet paper. And it was like, so the man is just like, what is this? And the woman is just like, oh, next time I'll do it. It was just so humiliating. But basically, they're doing the x-rays, and fortunately my legs were not broken. And based on what the police had seen, who ended up meeting us back at the hospital, I was standing exactly in a place where my car had been indented from the first accident. Like, I was basically cocooned, and had I been to the right even, 2 inches, oh my God, it would have theoretically gone through me. Or, as the doctor said to me, so I had been dealing with nurses and assistants, and then I got this doctor coming in to tell me, here's what happened. He says, well, if you had been over 1 inch, this would have happened. Or if you had been any thinner, it would have gone through you. And I'm just like, I don't need this right now. Like, I've gone through a lot already, sir. I don't need you to tell me I have thunder thighs. But I really am grateful that I had thicker legs, I guess, because it could have saved my legs. But basically, I was again, very fearful of needles, very fearful of that type of thing, even though I just endured a lot of pain. And I was told I needed to get stitches because I had, gaping wounds. And I said, do I have to? And they're like, oh, I guess not. And then I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be the case. Like, I feel like you should give them to me. But they didn't give them to me. And I now have kind of a cool scar, but it's kind of like, man, are we just allowed to not have stitches when we don't want them? I guess it's just an optional thing. But basically, my dad and Josh and his newer girlfriend Katie had arrived at the hospital, and they're all with me while I'm getting more morphine, which is also at that point I'll concede I probably wasn't being actually funny. I just thought I was being very funny because I was on a lot of great drugs. Yeah. But nothing had broken, but I had hematoma, which basically is like a very tough layer of cells, and it's basically like if you were to touch my leg, you would have felt what kind of feels like armor underneath my skin. And I wish that I knew more about the way that the body works to explain it in better detail, but hematoma is what I had. And so although nothing had broken, it was incredibly painful and bordering impossible for me to stand. I tried to stand and I immediately started to collapse, and they had to put me in a wheelchair. And so I was able to leave on crutches and with this chair, but I lived upstairs, which was very difficult. And I have 2 little kittens that we had just got that were loving to jump on my legs. Yeah. But for the next couple of weeks, I was bedridden. And this is at a time in my junior year of college where I really needed to be there, and I could not go. And so I tried once or twice to go to class, and because I already kind of hated college and had just recently started playing music, I decided I'm just gonna stop. And so I dropped out of college, mostly because of my legs, but largely because, you know what, I'm just not going to. And with all of this new free time, I started writing new songs, and I fell in love with music and comedy, and I started posting on YouTube, and that is how I ended up getting to do anything. But before that, there was this period of time, which I will always remember very deeply, where I couldn't really walk, so I wasn't able to get to the kitchen and fix myself something healthy. And my mom knew that my favorite food was mashed potatoes and gravy. And so that's all I ate. It's not like my jaw was broken, but I was kind of only eating that type of junk food. And so I used to be really, really prude and opposed to all drugs and alcohol. And I used to be so straight edge. And I had to take this medication that was meant to, help me not be in so much pain, but it would make me sleep in the day, and it was depressing me so much because I would just be constantly sleeping. I felt like, well, what's the point of living? And so my boyfriend at the time said, well, you could always try pot. And I'm just like, I'll try anything. And so there was this really beautiful period where I was just eating nothing but mashed potatoes and getting so high, and had this new game at the time called Skyrim had just come out. So I was playing Skyrim about 13 hours a day. And it was truly a decadent period of my life where I was really what I imagine my haters to look like. Someone who's just eating mush and playing video games all the time and gaining weight. I think one of the reasons why I'm not more upset by people who are mean to me on the internet is because I am that person. Like I have lived that life and I get it. And so once my leg started to kind of recover, because I had to go to physical therapy, and I actually would get really excited because I like attention as much as the next person. And I like to stand out sometimes because, there's a bit of an egomaniac in me, I suppose, but I think in a healthy dose. But basically, I really loved wearing clothes that would show the scars and bruises that I had. And because people would just be like, what on earth happened to you? And at the doctor, people would I really loved getting the attention of that looks so bad. And I was like, it is so bad. My favorite feeling in the world is someone feeling my forehead and being like, yeah, you're a little warm. That is my dream state, which, I think therapy is very important and all of us should go. So basically, after the physical therapy made it so that I was able to comfortably walk, I started going to yoga, and I started really taking my health more seriously and really valuing that I was alive. And it was this really amazing thing where I felt like I had this opportunity to really do anything. And, now that I had this kind of new lease on life and had been making music for about a year after the accident, I got my settlement from what had happened to me. Yeah. And it was for, I think it was for $60,000. And for me, that was the most life-changing money I'd ever heard of in my life.
Yeah.
And so it made it so I was able to leave Long Beach. And so I had loved my boyfriend and he loved me, but we were at a crossroads in our relationship where it was like, if we're not going to, make this be the relationship, I've only been with one person, and I think it's time for me to explore, and for him as well. And so I had the money, and I went to the car dealership on, I think it was Christmas Eve. Wow. And I went and I was looking at cars, and there was this guy who was helping me out the whole time, and I decided I was going to get this Ford Fiesta because it was zippy and small and fairly affordable. And so basically, I got the paperwork, and it came to this part where it said, well, where do you live? And I burst into tears because I didn't live anywhere. I was crashing at people's houses until I found the next place. I wasn't sure if I was going to move to Portland or if I was going to move to LA. I didn't know what I was going to do. But I burst into tears. And the guy felt really bad, and he was just like, I could make it a little cheaper, what can I do? And, he was very nice. And I was like, oh, no, it's okay. Yes to being cheaper, but yes, let's keep going. And so I'm about to leave the lot, and the car is just about to depreciate in value, and the guy stops me. I assume I must have forgotten something because he yells and tracks me down and going, Allie, wait. Yeah, what is it? Don't forget, Fiesta means party. And I just kind of looked at him, and then I said, thank you. And then I took my car and I pulled to the side of the road and I sobbed. And I was just like, why did he think that would make me feel better? But I think about it all the time because I actually had 2 Ford Fiestas after that. And I hate that car. It's the worst car I've ever had, but I got it twice because life is a party. But with that car, I drove further than I'd ever driven in my life. Before that time, I'd driven maybe as far as San Diego, which is 2 hours. I decided with my newfound freedom that I was going to drive to Seattle. And so I drove for 3 days straight, stopping, at night. And I really challenged myself to just kind of take the coast and see where it went. And I did things that would have terrified me now that I was so brave and cool to do then. And it was an experience for me where I decided I'm going to be an adult now. And so I had my first ever, kind of a hookup where it was like someone that I had been talking to, but it was the first time where I'm not in a relationship and there are no strings attached. Area? Was I in a picnic area? It ended up being this fun kind of lost weekend type feeling. And I remember there was this one night where I visited my dad's friends, people that I'd known since I was a baby, who were really wholesome and good. And I, at the time, was really wanting to let go of that and to just be, this cool person who stops at bars on the way and, meets people and wears too much makeup. And I really wanted to feel like a grown up who was able to live their own life. And I remember I'd had plans to go and see this concert, and I was hoping like, well, maybe I'll meet someone there, and it starts at 11, and like, how cool. But before that, I got dinner at these guys' house. Their names are Russ and Jackie, and their house is just so wholesome and inviting. They have this dog named Buster after Buster Keaton. They love the 40s. They're just super sweet. And they're saying like, why don't you stay for a while after dinner? And I was like, I would, but I'm going to this show. I was like, okay, well, why don't you help us cook in the meantime? And so we're all making spaghetti, and they have jazz playing, and it's just really wholesome and sweet, and it's really hard to not get swept up in the fun. And we eat our spaghetti, and they're like, well, why don't we play a game of Scrabble? Your show doesn't start for a while. I was like, okay, sure. And so we're playing. There's a fire. The dog is on me. Eventually, I fall asleep on the couch, and I wake up to Allie, do you want a milkshake? I'm like, I do want a milkshake. Yes, I do. And so the night ends up just being milkshakes, spaghetti, dogs, and a fire and Scrabble. And it was the best night I'd had in my life up until that point. And it was just like, this is the real me. Like, why am I trying to pretend that I'm someone that I'm not? But at the end of my week-long trip, I went back to that man who I had my first ever fling with. And he said in a very cinematic way, "You've grown so much since I've seen you." And I was like, I have. I really have. And I came back and I decided to live in LA. And because of the settlement amount, I was able to live here without having to work.
Amazing.
And so I used all of that time, and I released my first album, and I got the job on At Midnight, and I was able to really invest in myself in a way that I'm so incredibly lucky to have been able to do so. And I wouldn't have been able to do anything without this settlement money from the accident, which is why I think everyone should get hit by a car.
When people ask you, when they would see your legs and see them bruised and whatever, and they'd say, oh my God, what happened? What were your words?
My words were just, sometimes it'd be coy, just like, don't worry about it. And other times it would be, just like, oh, this really crazy thing happened. I got stuck in between two cars.
Yeah.
In fact, my current boyfriend, he also got stuck in between two cars, and we couldn't believe that was something we have in common. For him, it was slightly less crazy, but...
So that must have been so traumatic. I mean, for things to just change so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And they do say, like, if you're in an accident, you have to pull over on the side of the freeway or the road, get away from the car in general. Don't stand between or don't stand beside.
Yeah.
Well, just because people aren't always paying attention, they don't expect to see a car on the side of the road.
We found out that the driver who hit me was actually really high as well. Like, super, super kind of, like, not really able to drive.
So what happened to that person? Do you know?
I'm not allowed to know. I think that's kind of how it works in those cases. I think that's part of the settlement. But I know that at the time, like, I hope he actually listens to this, because I think it's really cruel that people who cause accidents don't get to know. Like, that guy might think I'm dead. Like, I really hope he knows that I'm okay.
Oh, interesting. I see. I thought you were going to say the opposite. Yeah, I see. I'm sure he knows you're okay.
Okay, good.
I mean, I think so. Isn't it funny what you think of right before something really scary and dangerous is going to happen? Like, every car accident that I've had, I saw it coming. It's like, well, this guy's going to hit me, take my hands off the wheel so I don't crush my arms. You just have to think like, and when you were talking about, I forget what you said, but I remember thinking something similar in that when I got hit this one time, my car is turning in circles and I'm thinking,
oh, this is how it happens.
Well, at least I'm going to get a new car. You know what I mean? It's like you think ahead of time. And and that's what you thought. You thought, well, I guess this is what happens when you lose your legs.
Yep.
Oh my God. Absolutely terrifying. So there was ketchup all over the car. And did you guys think it was blood at first?
We did. It was just so shocking that it was just kind of like, oh my God. But then we were able to laugh and we kind of thought, well, the worst is over.
Yeah.
Little did we know.
Yeah, it did seem like the worst was over.
It was very ominous seeing all the blood there, because there would soon be a lot of blood.
Yeah.
So it was a very
Oh, God.
like amazing kind of like Chekhov's.
So from
blood.
that night when you got crushed to
Yeah.
when you walked, how long was that period?
I feel like it was probably like 2 months of me.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
A lot of Skyrim.
Yeah, I don't remember that game.
You know, it's funny. It's a game that I still play because I have such a soft spot for that time in my life.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I play Pac-Man. I
Yeah.
love Pac-Man.
Some games are so nostalgic that way.
And the mashed potatoes, I think everybody can relate to this.
Yeah.
When I first moved to Los Angeles, I was so broke. How broke were you? That somebody gave me a gift certificate to $25 to Trader Joe's, and their mashed potatoes in a container were 99 cents each.
Oh my God.
And I just bought 25 of those where you pour water in and then you stir it.
It's amazing.
And I just had that for a month.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just mashed potatoes. I can totally get behind that. And I never saw it as junk food, actually,
It's actually not that bad for you.
because I thought it's a potato.
It's a potato.
I think that the fact that you were feeding your boyfriend French fries, it was like accident by French fry.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to say, like, was he at fault as well? Because he hit somebody from behind.
Because it was its own accident, it ended up not coming into it.
It like got negated.
Yeah, because, you know, there was the first accident, which was the one that he was at fault for. So I believe he had to end up, you know, I think our insurance ended up having to cover that. But I think they were willing to be more accepting when they realized, oh, well,
Look what happened
Look
after
what happened
that.
to her.
Subsequently, yeah.
that said, it's totally possible that the lawyer who was helping me ended up taking care of that through my settlement. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Listen, I don't think that college is necessarily necessary anymore.
My dad now says he goes a little too far where he says, I won't let my daughter Olivia go to college. I'm just like, that's a little extreme.
Yeah, but I hear that in terms of like, well, like my daughter's 13, so she's going to have to make these decisions in the next 5 years, and I think like I don't know, maybe she'll go on to some schooling, but maybe not. It's really hard to like. I can't possibly say that for her.
Yeah, and you know, listen, like depending on how this election goes, there might be a world where college is really affordable, and to go would be more like what I assume the idea is, which is just where everybody can educate themselves
Yeah.
and become a wiser, more, you know, skilled person. And unlike that's very dissimilar to what a lot of colleges are like now, or at least when I was going. I went to college for 4 years, but I couldn't graduate because I didn't get enough credits, even though I was going full time.
Yeah.
You know, because the school was impacted and you couldn't get the major that you wanted.
Oh
And so
my gosh.
I would have had to go for 6 years in order to just get a bachelor's degree. So
Unbelievable.
that, you know, I'm already, you know, however many thousands of dollars in debt from that.
Yeah.
It's really just crazy.
It's just that at 18 years old, I don't want her obviously doing nothing. I don't want her to stop learning. I want her to do some path.
I think that, you know, I think that going to some type of educational program is very useful, but that the best thing you could do is just invest in yourself in some way by taking some type of class and
stay
continuing your education in some way.
Yeah, staying busy and
Getting a job.
and going toward your passion. I feel like if
Traveling.
you say, yeah, but also if you say I'm in school, you get a pass,
True.
man. You can just say I'm in school. What do you do? I'm in school.
I'm in school.
And then you're over it. Nobody asks anything else.
Exactly.
So it's a fine line. And also, like, I never used my college education, but I wouldn't have been able to be a flight attendant if I didn't go to school.
Right.
And I wouldn't have gone to the Peace Corps if I didn't go to school. So there are things where they want you to just be able to check that box to show that you jumped through those hoops.
I actually really wanted to get a degree just so that I could teach English abroad. That is something I really wanted to do.
There you go.
To get your
Something like
certificate.
that. I don't think you have to have a degree anymore.
Good.
I
Well,
don't
maybe
think
I'll
so.
do that.
Listen, are you still writing music?
I am. For the first time in a while, I'm actually writing and performing a lot more. When I was working at MAD, the team over there, it wasn't MAD, it was kind of just like the powers that be, were really strict about me not being able to perform.
Wow.
It was really a weird,
Why?
oppressive thing. It was strange. I use the word oppressive lightly. I think that basically, because it was owned by DC, they were used to their editors not having like these huge side projects.
They want a behind the scenes person. Or
Yeah.
They don't want somebody else stealing thunder or talent or.
Right. But like, for example, like I got to be the moderator at the Matt Groening's new show, Disenchantment. I got to be the moderator
Was that fun? Or...
It was so fun
Oh.
at Comic-Con. And
Oh.
so I was so
Wow.
excited. But
In
I had
San Diego?
At San Diego. And I had to get special permission to do it. And they said, only if you don't say that you work at Mad. And I'm just like, that's such free advertising for you. Who wouldn't who among a Matt Groening crowd wouldn't be excited to hear about a new Mad magazine?
Sure.
But now that I know that they've kind of pulled the plug on Mad, I kind of wonder if maybe they just were always kind of planning. This is all
Interesting.
speculation.
Yeah.
I have good will towards everyone there, but it's just kind of like,
well, but
you never know.
And people do have their rules. Like I work with Stephanie Courtney. She comes on Story Smash as a judge now and then, and she's the progressive girl, Flo.
oh my god,
And
that's so cool.
she has to have approval to do anything.
Right, because she's the face of that company.
Exactly. And so like it can't be, and she's not recorded, or she is recorded, but it's not videotaped.
Right.
So like that could never be.
Wow.
And so I do understand some of the limitations.
Exclusivity.
But it seems to me that you're right. The Groening crowd would be the DC crowd.
Oh, yeah. But, regardless, I'm now writing some new music and preparing for that to be a new album. So
Yay,
that'll
I'm
be
happy.
sometime this year.
One more question and we got to wrap it up. One of your most famous songs from a long time ago, and when I first got to know you, was the Comedian song. And in it, one of the lines is, a lot of it is like, it's not my fault that I love Patton Oswalt. It's, everything has a rhyme, and you name many, 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 many. Rob Hubel, you name many, many comedians, but you also name It's Okay That I Love Louis C.K.
Yeah, the line is, tell me it's okay that I like Louis C.K., to which I say to my audience, you guys should have told me it wasn't okay.
I was wondering how you were pulling that off.
I sometimes will perform that song with the context of I'm going to now add a commentary on every comedian that I've now sung about.
That's kind of cute. Or it could just be, it is not okay to love Louis C.K.
Exactly right.
You're adorable, and I'm so happy you came on today.
Thank you.
It's really good to catch up and see where you're headed, and I wish you all the luck in the world. You deserve it.
Thank you so much.
You're such a quality person, and I think that anybody that works with you is going to be very happy.
Oh, thank you.
It's awesome. All right, you guys, I got to wrap it up. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Make sure you find Allie over there on Twitter at Allie Goertz, and then find me over there as well at Storyworthy. Yes, of course, we know this. And don't forget, you guys, my solo show, Surviving the Ride, is back at the Lyric Theater on Sunday, February 16th at 5 o'clock. You have to come, Allie.
I would love to come.
I want you to come so much. It's super fun. It's super tight. 1 hour long. You're in, you're out. We'll hang out. We'll have a beer on the deck. It's only $10. February 16th, you guys. Head to my website, ChristineBlackburn.com, for more. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Allie Goertz. Thank you, friend.
Thank you.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
The General Insurance presents Shower Ballads by Shaq.
And I'm gonna keep on loving you, 'cause it's the only thing I wanna do.
Turns out, everyone does sound better in the shower. And it turns out, The General is a quality insurance company that's been saving people money for nearly 60 years.
I just wanna keep on loving you. For a great low rate and nearly 60 years of quality coverage, make the right call and go with the General.
The General Auto Insurance Services, Inc., an insurance agency, Nashville, Tennessee. Some restrictions apply.
Membership fees apply after free trial. Cancel anytime.
Hi, it's Carl Deichler, CEO of Beachbody, and I'm giving away 10,000 free memberships a week to try our amazing Beachbody fitness and nutrition programs. Pick any program and just follow it step by step, like our 21-Day Fix program or the Ab Shredding Muscle Burns Fat program. Plus, there's free support in personalized fitness groups with our community of over 2 million members. Now is the time, so don't wait. Go to beachbody.com to claim your free membership and start feeling great.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Corient. Corient provides wealth management services centered around you. They focus on exceeding expectations, simplifying lives, and establishing legacies that last for generations. Leverage their exclusive network of experts to help achieve your personal and professional financial goals. As one of the largest integrated fee-only registered investment advisors in the U.S., Corient has experienced teams who can craft custom solutions designed to help you reach your financial goals, no matter how complex. Real wealth requires real solutions. Connect to a wealth advisor today at Corient.com.